We have been sold a comforting lie since the moment we were born, a myth whispered into our ears when we are in pain or waiting for a better day. They tell us that time heals everything, that if we just wait long enough, the wounds will fade and the future will arrive to save us. But consider for a moment that this entire premise is built on a foundation of smoke. What if time, as you perceive it, never existed in the first place? What if the healing, the transformation, and the magnificent new life you have been desperately waiting for isn't sitting in some distant, unreachable tomorrow? What if it is not a destination you travel to, but a frequency you tune into, happening right now, in a parallel layer of reality that you simply haven't adjusted your dial to receive? Visualizing this requires us to step out of the mundane and into the miraculous. Imagine a man standing in an infinite, dimly lit hallway lined with thousands of mirrors. Each mirror does not reflect his current face, but rather a different version of his existence. In one reflection, he is shattered, trapped in a loop of regret and sorrow, looking at a life that fell apart. But just inches away, another mirror reveals a version of him that is powerful, fully awakened, radiating a deep sense of peace and living the exact dream he prays for every night. As he walks down this corridor, he believes he is moving forward through time, leaving the past behind and walking toward the future. But this is the illusion. Every single version of him, the broken man and the king, already exists simultaneously in those mirrors. The only variable that changes is not the timeline, but his attention. It depends entirely on which mirror he chooses to stand before and gaze into. This is not merely a philosophical metaphor designed to make you feel better. This is the hard science of quantum mechanics. We have been conditioned to view time as a straight, linear arrow, launching from the past, passing through the fleeting now, and landing in the future. We organize our lives around this arrow, believing it is the governing law of the universe. But what if that arrow is nothing more than a convenient trick of the mind? What if it is merely a simplified map drawn by a biological brain wired for survival, not for perceiving the absolute truth? Your brain does not actually experience time in the way you think it does. It simply catalogs sequences of electrical patterns. What you call the past is nothing more than a synaptic recording, a memory trace stored in your neurons. What you call the future is simply an unplayed track on a cosmic playlist, waiting for a signal to be heard. The old Newtonian model of the world, where time is fixed, measurable, and constant, like a ticking clock on a wall, collapses completely the moment you zoom in. Einstein whispered this secret to us over 100 years ago when he proved that time is relative. He showed us that it is not a rigid cage, but a flexible variable that bends and warps depending on speed, gravity, and the position of the observer. However, there is a deeper layer to this mystery that standard education never touches. When you dive into the quantum field, the very fabric of time begins to dissolve and lose its meaning. In this subatomic realm, particles do not travel from point A to point B through time. Instead, they exist in a state of pure potentiality, suspended in a timeless soup of infinite probability. They are everywhere and nowhere at once until something profound happens. The moment we observe them, the moment conscious attention is applied, they snap out of that wave of possibility and collapse into a single, defined state. This suggests something radical. Time does not flow like a river. It collapses based on your focus. What you experience as now is simply the specific point where your consciousness intersects with a particular frequency of potential. This intersection of consciousness and reality brings us to a revelation that is both terrifying and liberating. The real twist in this cosmic game is not just that time is flexible, but that you are not a single, linear entity. Every conceivable version of you already exists. The version who succeeded beyond your wildest dreams, the one who failed and gave up, and the one who is already free from all suffering. These are not metaphors or active imaginations. They are real, tangible timelines encoded into the quantum field, waiting for an observer. The mechanism that selects which of these realities you experience experience is your own identity, your emotions, and your core beliefs. These elements act as tuning forks, vibrating at a specific pitch that resonates with one specific timeline over the others. You are not creating your reality in a linear fashion. You are selecting it through vibration. Of course, the logical mind fights this. It points to the clock ticking on the wall, the calendar filling up with appointments, and the aging of the physical body. It asks, how can time not exist if I am clearly living inside it? This is the puzzle that traps the majority of humanity in a loop of repetition. The loophole lies in understanding that time is real only within a specific frequency, much like the rules of a video game exist only while you are playing that specific level. Each timeline has its own physics, its own logic, and its own narrative momentum. However, when you shift your consciousness out of one timeline and into another, when you make a vibrational jump, the rules suddenly change. Time seems to bend, memories scramble or fade, the past seems to rewrite itself, and the future you thought was impossible starts leaking into your present reality. If this sounds impossible to you, it is only because you have been taught to view yourself as a fixed, solid object moving through a solid, fixed world. You have forgotten the fundamental truth that your mind, your energy, and your awareness are non-local phenomena. They are not trapped inside the meat and bone of your skull. Your consciousness is a quantum instrument capable of collapsing infinite realities into a tangible experience. Think of your body as the avatar in the simulation and your consciousness as the player holding the controller. Time is merely the illusion that makes the game feel consequential and real. Let's go deeper into how you are perpetuating this illusion every day. Every time you recall a memory, you are not opening a static file cabinet in your brain and looking at a photograph. You are actively recreating that memory in the present moment, firing up the same neural networks and re-experiencing the same emotional chemistry. By doing this, you are energetically aligning yourself with the version of you who lived that past, reinforcing the signal that keeps you tethered to it. This is the precise reason why history repeats itself in your life. It is not destiny. It is not bad luck. It is because your focus is collapsing the same timeline over and over again. The key to breaking this cycle is realizing that your perception of time is actually a mirror of your emotional state. When you are stuck in guilt, regret, or depression, time slows down to a crawl. The future feels like 1,000,000 miles away, completely unreachable. But when you enter a state of coherence, when your heart and mind are aligned in the present moment, time dissolves. Hours pass like seconds. You enter the flow state, and from that space, leaping into a new timeline becomes effortless. Here is the paradox that almost no one talks about, yet it holds the key to your liberation. If you want to fundamentally change your future, you must first change your past. This does not mean you take a pen and literally rewrite the history books or deny the events that took place. It means you must shift your vibrational relationship to those events. As long as your current identity is deeply entangled with the old version of yourself, the one who was hurt, abandoned, or rejected, you act as a beacon, constantly tuning into the same recurring outcome. You remain locked in a frequency that demands repetition. But the very moment you step into a new emotional frequency, something miraculous occurs. Your observer effect collapses a completely new slice of reality. In that split second of alignment, the past itself reshapes. It changes not just in your memory, but in your energetic field. You might be pausing right now thinking, but I remember clearly what happened. It is real. It is solid. Acknowledge that thought, but then dare to ask, what if that memory only feels solid because you have been feeding it with your undivided attention for years? What if the only proof you have of that limitation is your own neurological repetition, creating a loop so convincing that you forgot it was optional? Consider the possibility that true healing isn't about fixing a broken past, but boldly choosing a new one. This is not mere wishful thinking or fantasy. This is quantum coherence. It reflects the fundamental nature of light, which behaves as both a particle and a wave until a conscious observer forces it to decide. This same principle applies to the entangled particles of your life, affecting each other across the illusion of time and space. When your consciousness elevates beyond the limited linear perception we are taught in school, you become the architect of time itself. The pressing question shifts from, can I escape time, to, which version of time am I collapsing right now? We must understand that time is not something outside of you, rushing past like a wild river you are forced to float upon. It is a field that you project. You are simultaneously the projector, the film strip, and the screen. Every thought you think, every emotion you harbor, and every belief you hold is actively choosing which reel of reality plays out on the screen of your life. Now, we must explore the piece of the puzzle you are likely missing, the concept that bridges science and the mystical. The quantum field does not perceive time the way you do. From the perspective of the field, the game of time is already over. Everything you have ever desired, every triumph and every solution is already encoded in a frame that is simply waiting for your frequency to match it. To understand this, let's move beyond the intellect. Close your eyes for a moment and drift with me. Imagine you are floating in the vast darkness of deep space, far beyond the orbit of Earth, outside the gravitational pull of any planet or star. In this void, there are no clocks ticking on the wall, no sunsets marking the days, no rhythm of a watch. There is no yesterday to regret and no tomorrow to fear. There is only stillness. There is only now. But this is not the fleeting now you are used to. This is a vast, multi-dimensional present moment, alive and pulsing with infinite potential, where all possible outcomes exist simultaneously. This is not science fiction. This is the nature of the quantum field. In our everyday existence, we obsess over linear time because we inhabit a biological brain that processes information in sequences. The sun rises, we eat, we sleep, and we repeat. The past feels like a story carved in stone, and the future feels like a distant, foggy hope. But this perception is not a universal truth. It is simply the way the human nervous system organizes data to ensure survival. In the deeper reality of the quantum field, time is not a straight line. It is a landscape. Just as a landscape holds mountains and valleys simultaneously, the field holds everything at once. Every potential outcome, every version of you, every twist in your narrative already exists right now in a superposition of possibilities. Physicists like John Wheeler and David Bohm understood that this field isn't just a chaotic sea of particles. It is a unified field of intelligent potential, a realm beyond space and time, where past and future are not fixed points on a ruler, but accessible coordinates of frequency. In this field, nothing is solid until it is observed. Conscious awareness is the catalyst that collapses this infinite soup of potential into the tangible reality you call your life. This means the future isn't coming to get you, it is waiting for you. And the past isn't gone, it is still vibrating right beside you. Einstein famously called the distinction between the past, the present, and the future a stubbornly persistent illusion. What he meant was that from the vantage point of the universe itself, time does not move. Everything simply is. The grand tapestry of existence is already woven. It is only when you step into a biological body, into a limited brain, and into a specific identity that the illusion of linear time begins to appear. Think of it this way. Your consciousness is like a powerful flashlight in a pitch-black room, and time is the beam of light it casts. Wherever you point your focus, that specific slice of reality lights up and becomes your now. But just because the beam has moved on from the corner of the room does not mean the corner has ceased to exist. It is simply no longer illuminated by your attention. The other slices of reality are still there, waiting in the dark. This concept is backed by one of the most hauntingly powerful discoveries in physics, the double-slit experiment. It proved that a particle behaves like a wave, a field of pure, undefined probability, until it is measured. The moment you observe it, it is forced to choose a location, a moment, and a state. But here is the piece of the puzzle that most people overlook, the piece that changes everything. The act of observation does not just affect the present moment, it reaches back into the past. This is known as retrocausality. Quantum delayed choice experiments have shown that a decision made in the present can actually influence how a particle behaved in the past. Let that sink into your bones. Your current state of consciousness has the power to reshape what already happened. It does not just change how you remember the event, it changes the energetic footprint of the event itself. So what does this mean for your life right now? It means you are not a helpless passenger moving through time. You are an editor selecting frames from a vast quantum archive. Imagine a film reel with every possible version of your life already printed on the celluloid. There is a frame for deep love, a frame for heartbreak, a frame for massive abundance, and a frame for total failure. You are the projector. You are the one choosing which frame to light up with the fire of your awareness. We often feel like victims of our history, believing that because something happened 10 years ago, it defines who we are today. But if the present moment can influence the past, then you are constantly rewriting your origin story with every shift in your vibration. You are not the result of your past. Your past is the result of your current observation. When you shift your focus, the you who lived through that trauma changes. The narrative arc bends. You stop being the victim of a tragedy and become the hero of a resurrection. This is not just psychological reframing, it is timeline selection. You are physically tuning out of the reality where you were broken and tuning into the reality where that experience served as the catalyst for your greatest power. And here lies the master key. You do not need to wait for time to bring you what you desire. Time is too slow. Time is the old way. To get what you want, you need to match the frequency of the version of you who already has it. This is where the cold facts of science meet the mysteries of the soul. Matching a frequency is not a mental game of fake it until you make it. It is a visceral, vibrational shift. Your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs, and your energetic coherence act as the tuning dial on a radio. When your heart and your brain are in sync, a state neuroscientists call coherence, you become a crystal clear signal in the static of the field. The quantum field is always listening, but it doesn't respond to what you want or what you hope for. It responds to who you are, not your personality, but your frequency. If you are broadcasting a signal of lack, waiting for money to arrive so you can finally feel wealthy, you are aligning with a timeline of more waiting. If you are desperate for love so you can finally feel worthy, you are resonating with a reality where love remains just out of reach. This isn't magic, this is mechanics. Attracts like. If you feel peace right now, independent of your circumstances, you resonate with realities where peace already rules your life. Let's look at your brain. The neocortex, the part of you that processes logic and language, is bound by time. It understands yesterday and tomorrow. But the limbic brain, the ancient emotional center of your system, does not know the difference between past, present, or future. It only knows chemistry. When you feel deep, trembling gratitude right now for a future that hasn't happened yet, your limbic brain doesn't wait for external proof to validate it. It accepts the feeling as truth. It collapses that experience into your nervous system immediately. It changes your biology, your hormones, and your electromagnetic field to match that future reality. This is why gratitude is the ultimate hack for manifestation. It tricks your biological system into believing the future is happening now, and the quantum field responds accordingly. You might be wondering, if all these amazing timelines already exist, why am I stuck in this painful one? The answer is simple, but it is confronting. You have been unconsciously choosing this timeline through your attention, your limiting beliefs, and your unresolved emotional addictions. You have been collapsing the same version of reality over and over again, mistaking a habit of observation for fate. But now that you know the truth, the cage door is open. You can step back, widen your lens, and begin to collapse a different outcome. This isn't about escaping your life. It's about expanding your awareness to include the greater reality that has been surrounding you all along. The quantum field is not some distant nebula floating light years away in the cosmos. It is not out there waiting for you to find a rocket ship. It is right here, pulsating beneath your skin, woven into the very breath you are taking at this moment. It is responding to every micro thought and every fleeting feeling you generate. In this field, time is not a conveyor belt moving you helplessly toward old age. It is a vibrational access point, and you hold the access code. However, before you can unlock these new futures, you must do the difficult work of unhooking yourself from the heavy emotional anchors of your past. You must interrupt the neurological patterns that keep your attention bound to the familiar, even when the familiar is painful. You have to become radically aware of what you are observing and why. Remember, every observation is a choice, every thought is a key, and every emotion is a signal blast to the field. You are beginning to see that the future is not something you wait for. It is something you tune into, like a radio station that has been broadcasting all along. The timeline where everything you desire is already real, where the health, the love, and the abundance are your natural state, is not far away. It is just vibrating at a frequency you haven't fully remembered how to access yet. But that memory is starting to return. You must understand that the version of your past that has been anchoring you in limitation is not solid rock. It is a story you keep telling, a song you keep singing. To collapse the timeline of struggle, you must stop singing its anthem. You must withdraw your attention from the evidence of what was and place it firmly on the evidence of what is becoming. There is a version of you that is already healed, a version that walks in total confidence, lives in flow, and breathes in deep peace. They are not in your distant future. They are not a fantasy constructed by a hopeful mind. They are real. Right now, vibrating in a parallel timeline just millimeters away from your current perception. The only thing separating you from them is the signal you are sending to the field. This is not about fantasizing or daydreaming. This is about physics. Quantum jumping, or timeline shifting, is not some metaphysical gimmick or new age trend. It is the direct result of understanding how your consciousness interacts with the field of infinite potential. Your identity, your beliefs, your emotions, and your thoughts are not just internal decorations. They are the levers and pulleys that operate the machine of your reality. And the field is ruthless in its neutrality. It does not respond to what you want. It responds to what you broadcast. If you broadcast longing, it gives you more things to long for. If you broadcast fulfillment, it gives you fulfillment. Let's dismantle one of the most popular and damaging illusions in the human experience. Most people believe they need to change the world outside in order to live a better life inside. They run around trying to fix, chase, or rearrange the external variables, the jobs, the relationships, the bank accounts, hoping that once the pieces are in place, they will finally feel safe. But this is backward. In quantum terms, the outer world is not the cause, it is the effect. Your reality is not happening to you, it is collapsing from you. Think of your current life as a frequency pattern, a specific playlist of experiences you are constantly tuning into. If you keep broadcasting the same emotional signature, resentment, fear, doubt, or victimization, you will keep collapsing the same stations. You will keep meeting the same people with different faces, experiencing the same roadblocks with different names. Even if you visualize something better, if your underlying frequency is rooted in the past, the field will only echo that past back to you. This is why change feels so hard for so many. This is why life seems stuck. But here is the breakthrough you have been waiting for. You don't need to force the external world to change. You can jump right now into a timeline where the version of you who already embodies your desire exists. To do that, you must collapse the vibrational past that has been holding your identity hostage. Let's make this practical. Your brain does not store time. It stores patterns. It stores neurological circuits linked to specific emotions. Every time you recall a painful memory, you are not revisiting a neutral file. You are re-experiencing the frequency of that version of you. You are becoming emotionally entangled with a dead timeline. That means the past you keep replaying isn't just haunting you. It is actively anchoring your current vibration to a state of lack. So how do you collapse it? First, you stop feeding it. Awareness is the blade that cuts the cord. When you become the observer of your emotional triggers instead of the reactor, you begin to disentangle from that old version of yourself. Your nervous system, once addicted to the familiar chemistry of stress or guilt, begins to lose its grip. This is neuroplasticity in action. This is quantum liberation. Next, you must embody the version of you who no longer carries that pain. Not intellectually. You can't think your way out of a feeling. You must do it energetically. You sit with your body. You breathe into your chest. You ask, How would I feel if that past no longer defined me? And then you practice that feeling. You cannot simply dip your toe into this new frequency once and expect the ocean to change. You must practice this new state of being repeatedly, consistently, and with relentless devotion until your biology has no choice but to match that frequency. The more time you spend inhabiting the emotional state of the new you, the more the old timeline begins to starve and wither away. Why? Because you are no longer feeding it the life force of your observation. This brings us to a radical redefinition of what it means to heal. True healing is never about going back to fix the broken pieces of the past. It is about deciding in this present moment to no longer be the version of yourself that was shaped by those pieces. In the quantum field, the rule is absolute. What you stop observing ceases to exist, and what you begin to embody becomes your reality. This is where the process becomes beautiful and accessible to everyone. You do not need a massive, earth-shattering event to shift your life. You can create micro jumps every single day. Every time you are faced with a stressful situation and you choose peace over panic, you are jumping. Every time you choose clarity over confusion or presence over the addictive loop of an old pattern, you are actively collapsing an old version of yourself and stepping into a new one. That is a timeline jump. It might feel small in the moment, but over time, these jumps compound. The frequency gap between where you used to be and where you are standing now expands so dramatically that you eventually look around and realize you are living a completely different life. And the truth is, you have migrated decision by decision, breath by breath, to a new coordinate in the field. To truly change, you must learn to think greater than your environment. But to jump timelines, you must go even deeper. You must learn to feel greater than your history. This is the secret sauce. Most people try to change their lives through thought alone, creating vision boards and lists. But while thought is the map, feeling is the engine. Feeling is the language the field speaks. You can think about abundance all day, but if you feel lack in your gut, the field will give you lack. When your feeling body aligns with the signal of your future self, when you feel the gratitude before the check arrives, the love before the partner shows up, the quantum GPS recalibrates instantly. The great mystics and modern visionaries often speak of living in the end. This is a concept that is frequently misunderstood. It does not mean you sit on your couch and fantasize about a dream life while ignoring your responsibilities. It means you embody the emotional frequency of that life as if it were already true. Why? Because in the quantum field, it is already true. The moment you act, speak, and breathe as if you are already that upgraded version of yourself, not through delusion, but through deep, calm coherence, you collapse into that timeline. Reality does not wait for you to be ready. It mirrors who you are being right now. Do not confuse this with fake it till you make it. This isn't about performance, it's about alignment. And importantly, do not confuse action with force. This is not about doing more, grinding harder, or exhausting yourself. It is about being differently. Your job is not to chase the new timeline down the street. Your job is to match it. The timeline you desire is magnetic. It wants you just as much as you want it. It draws to you exactly what you are. When you stop performing the script of the past, you unlock access to realities your old identity could never even perceive. However, there is a subtle trap you must be aware of. As you begin this work, the old timeline will try to pull you back. It will not do this because it is evil or because the universe is testing you. It will do it because it is familiar. Your nervous system has a bias for what it knows, even if what it knows is chaos and pain. Your ego may fear losing its old story because without the story of the victim or the struggler, it doesn't know who it is. That is why jumping timelines requires keen awareness rather than perfection. You will feel discomfort. You will feel the drag of the old gravity. That discomfort is not a sign that you are doing it wrong. It is a sign that you are leaving a vibrational cage. Honor the resistance, but do not bow to it. Don't fight it. Just breathe through it. Your new self, the one who is free, abundant, and whole, is waiting on the other side of that resistance. So you must ask yourself a dangerous question. Who am I ready to stop being? Which emotional habits, which thought loops, which stories of I can't are you willing to release? You release them not by fighting them, but by choosing a higher signal. The quantum field is not some passive backdrop to your life. It is an active, listening intelligence. It has been listening to you since your very first breath. It has been faithfully playing the song you have been broadcasting, whether you were aware of the lyrics or not. The song of your future self, the one who is thriving, loved, and awakened, is already playing in the background. It is subtle, magnetic, and waiting for you to harmonize with it. But to hear it fully, you need to become still enough to tune out the noise of your own doubts. You must understand that your attention is your most powerful, underestimated gift. It is the remote control that governs which version of time you collapse into your now. Once you grasp this, everything changes. There is a reason why your life keeps looping in circles. There is a reason why the same patterns, the same emotional pitfalls, and the same frustrating outcomes seem to find their way back to your doorstep, no matter how hard you run. It is not karma punishing you. It is not bad luck haunting you. It is the mechanics of observation working exactly as designed, and it is far more powerful than you have ever been told. In the realm of quantum mechanics, there is a fundamental principle that shatters everything we think we know about the stability of reality: the observer effect. This principle states that particles, the building blocks of your world, exist in a state of superposition. This means they exist in a state of infinite potential, occupying all possible states simultaneously until they are observed. The moment observation happens, the wave of potential collapses into a specific particle, a specific outcome. It does not happen before you look. It happens because you look. The act of attention creates the event. Now, expand this concept from subatomic particles to the macrocosm of your life. Imagine that your thoughts, your emotions, and your expectations are acts of constant, unyielding observation. This means you are not just a witness to your reality, passively watching life unfold like a movie you didn't write. You are selecting it. Your attention is not passive, it is creative. It is the laser light that collapses vague timelines into solid form. The field, that quantum sea of pure potential, is completely neutral. It does not judge what you choose to focus on. It does not try to correct your mistakes. It simply reflects the quality of your focus with absolute precision. If you focus on what is missing, you collapse a reality of lack. If you focus on why you are stuck, you collapse more of the stuckness. Because the field is a mirror and not a judge, it will give you exactly what you feed it. If you dare to focus on the reality you want with emotional truth and coherence, the field has no choice but to organize itself around that signal. Let's ground this in the raw human experience. Most people live in a trance of repetition. They are not powerless. They are simply distracted. Their attention has been hijacked by the traumas of the past, the anxieties of the future, and the constant noise of the modern world. All of these things fragment the power of the observer. Their energy is scattered, their presence is diluted, and so their life becomes a mirror of that confusion, chaotic, numb, and repetitive. But the truth remains. Your attention is the remote control of time. Wherever you aim it, the timeline responds. This is not a poetic metaphor. This is field dynamics. Each thought you think, especially when it is charged with a high voltage emotion, sends a measurable signal into the quantum field. Your brain emits electrical patterns, and your heart emits magnetic waves. Together, they form an electromagnetic broadcast, a signature that instructs the field on what to collapse into your experience next. This explains why being stuck in the past feels so physically heavy. It is not that the past is real or solid. It is that you have been feeding it with constant, unwavering observation. Every time you tell the same sad story to a friend, every time you feel the same pang of regret, or relive the same betrayal in your mind, you are not remembering history. You are re-encoding repeating that timeline. You are telling the field, keep playing this track, and the field listens. It always listens. But here is the quantum shift that changes the game. Once you redirect your attention with intentionality, the entire field reorients itself. It doesn't happen gradually over years. It can happen instantly. This isn't because you forced change through willpower, but because you tuned your awareness to a different frame of possibility. Imagine your attention is a high-powered laser pointer. 1,000 doors stand before you in the dark. You have been unconsciously pointing your laser at door number 4, the one marked struggle, confusion, and waiting. Because you are looking at it, that is the door that opens. But now you stop. You become still. You feel your breath. You reconnect to the observer, not the wounded identity, but the silent witness behind the thoughts. And with deliberate grace, you move the beam. You point it toward door number 7, the timeline where you are already free, grounded, and powerful. As your attention locks in, that door begins to open. However, there is a crucial nuance here that most seekers miss, and it is the reason why their visualizations often fail to bear fruit. Focus without emotional energy is weak. It is a hollow shell. You can mentally chant, "I want to be free," or "I am abundant," 1,000 times a day. But if your emotional body, your gut, your heart, your solar plexus is still vibrating with the frequency of fear or scarcity, you are sending a scrambled signal to the universe. You are saying one thing but broadcasting another. And in the quantum realm, the vibration always overpowers the vocabulary. The field responds to coherence, which is the perfect alignment between what you think and what you feel. This is why intellectual mindfulness alone is rarely enough to shift a life. You must learn to feel your focus. You must become an observer with a heart. Neuroscience has finally caught up to ancient wisdom in this regard. Studies on heart-brain coherence show that when your emotional system and your mental system sync up, when your clear intention is married to an elevated emotion, your body enters a state of biological alignment. In this state, you become a powerful, coherent transmitter. Your intuition sharpens, the fog of stress dissolves, and you become energetically magnetic. The field, which is always scanning for clear signals, mirrors back the timeline that matches this elevated state. This is the state where miracles become normal. This is why the mystics of old and the quantum physicists of today are finally saying the same thing. Presence is power. We are not talking about a passive, spaced-out spiritual presence. We are talking about intentional, laser-focused awareness. When you become fully conscious of where your attention is going, you reclaim the ability to shift timelines at will. You stop reacting to the world and start selecting it. But there is a subtle truth here that empowers you even further. Reclaiming your attention isn't just about focus. It is about sovereignty. It is about taking your power back from the external world. When your attention is truly yours again, not hijacked by the news, by fear, by distraction, or by the pain of the past, you become untouchable. You stop collapsing timelines from a place of wounded autopilot and begin collapsing them from a place of soul alignment. The question is never, am I creating my reality? You are always creating it. The real question is, from what level of consciousness am I creating it? If you observe your life through the lens of fear, you collapse limitation. But if you observe from love, from clarity, from a deep sense of embodied worth, the field opens like a flower, blooming with timelines you didn't even know were possible. That is not magic, that is mechanics. So take a breath right now and feel the weight of your focus. Ask yourself, what timeline am I feeding with my attention today? Because that micro moment of awareness is more powerful than months of struggle. If you are ready to collapse the version of time where you are stuck, repeating the same loops and waiting for permission to live, you must make a declaration to the field. You must decide that your attention commands the timeline. This is your first signal, a notification to the universe that you are no longer collapsing your reality from a state of sleep. You are here, awake, observing with intention. Once you understand the mechanics of observation, the only thing left to do is to fully embody the version of you who is already living in the timeline you desire. And the moment you do, your world will shift on its axis. There is a reason you can see your desired future so clearly in your mind's eye. The life you crave, the peace, the abundance, the freedom, is not a fantasy generated by your brain. It is a memory from the field. It is a vibrational echo from a version of you that already exists. You don't imagine your highest self, you remember them. But here is the paradox. That version of you isn't something you become over time. It is something you embody now, or you never experience it at all. In the quantum field, time does not bring change, frequency does. And your frequency is not an abstract vibration floating in space. It is a state of being. It is a complex cocktail of your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, body chemistry, and energetic posture. This means you are either broadcasting the signal of your future self, or you are tuning into a past loop. There is no neutral ground. Let's ground this in science. Every emotion you feel creates a specific chemical cascade in the body. If you feel stressed, you flood your system with cortisol. If you feel loved, you produce oxytocin. If you feel threatened, you pump adrenaline. These chemicals are not random. They are messengers. They carry signals that reinforce specific neural pathways. Over time, those pathways harden into personality traits, identities, and eventually, your tangible reality. If every day you wake up and feel the same lack, dread, or anxiety, you are not just having a bad morning, you are unconsciously broadcasting the same identity, telling the quantum field, this is who I am. And the field, ever precise, mirrors back the timeline that matches that chemistry. This process of chemical signaling is not punishment. It is biological precision, but the moment you choose to interrupt that chemical habit, everything changes. When you wake up tomorrow and choose to breathe like someone who is already free, when you move your body with the grace of someone who trusts the unfolding of life, and when you think like someone who already possesses their desire, the signal shifts. Your biology begins to reprogram itself. Your electromagnetic field recalibrates. You effectively become a new vibrational node in the quantum matrix. Neville Goddard touched upon this timeless truth when he instructed us to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. He was not suggesting we pretend. He was teaching us the physics of creation. The quantum field does not respond to begging, pleading, or the frantic energy of need. It responds to embodied certainty. It responds to emotional alignment. Here is the hard truth that most people avoid facing. As long as you keep waiting to feel good after something outside of you changes, you are trapped in a linear illusion. You are stuck in the old Newtonian trap of cause and effect. But in the quantum paradigm, the flow is inverted. You must feel it before you see it. You must become the cause. Your embodiment is the signal that bends reality around you. Let's make this tangible and practical. Do you want abundance? Then stop trying to get it. Start embodying the version of you who already lives from a place of overflow. How does that version of you walk down the street? How do they speak to a waiter? What choices do they make at the grocery store? What do they no longer tolerate in their energy field? Do you want deep, resonant love? Stop chasing it. Embody the version of you who is held, already whole, and already cherished. What boundaries does that version set? What kind of energy do they radiate without even trying? Do you want to lead, create, and expand? Then step into the timeline where you are already that creator. You do this not by pretending, but by remembering. The field does not require proof. It requires coherence. This is not delusion. This is neurological programming. When you act as if for long enough, your brain begins to rewire its synaptic highways. Your body begins to believe the new reality is happening now. Your energy stabilizes in a higher harmonic. The subconscious mind, which governs 95% of your behavior, starts obeying these new instructions. And then, with shocking precision, the field reflects that new frequency back to you in the form of synchronicities, opportunities, and miracles. Embodiment is not a performance for others. It is a collapsing of the gap between who you have been and who you truly are. It is a surrender to the truth that is already encoded in your soul. This is why embodiment is so powerful. It bypasses the analytical mind and activates the memory of your future stored in your heart. When your brain and heart are in sync, your body becomes a magnet. In that state of coherence, you don't chase outcomes. You attract them effortlessly. You are no longer forcing life to happen. You are flowing with a field that finally recognizes you because you are broadcasting a clear, stable signal. And here is the secret that no one tells you. Your embodiment doesn't just shift your individual life, it shifts the collective field. Every time you choose coherence over chaos, you make it easier for others to do the same. You emit a signal into the morphogenetic field, a blueprint of possibility that others can tune into. Your embodiment becomes a portal. That is the invitation of this moment. You are being called not to wait, wish, or doubt, but to start living now as if the reality you long for has already arrived. Because in the quantum realm, it is waiting in the field, waiting for a frequency match, waiting for you. If time is not linear, if timelines are real and collapsible, and if embodiment is your superpower, then the way you live must change. There is a specific, irreversible moment when a human being stops living in time and begins living as frequency. It is the moment you stop asking, "When will my future come?" and instead declare, "I am already living it." This is the moment linear time dissolves and you awaken as a conscious participant in a multidimensional reality. The truth has been whispering to you all along. Time is not a road, it is a mirror. When you shift internally, reality must follow. You are no longer running toward your future. You are becoming the version of you who remembers how to collapse it into the now. You are not alone in this. There is a global shift happening, not in governments or technologies, but in consciousness itself. Individuals across the globe are waking up from the trance of linear time and stepping into the field as creators, not victims. Let's anchor this truth into your body right now. Take a deep breath in, close your eyes, feel your feet on the floor, the gravity, the weight, the presence. Ask yourself without hesitation, what version of me already lives the life I desire? Feel them. See their posture, hear their thoughts, sense their frequency. Now breathe them into your body, not with force, but with surrender. Inhale their knowing, exhale your resistance. With each breath, the space between you and them dissolves until there is no separation, because there never was. You have collapsed the idea of one day and stepped into the vibration of now. From this place, all choices shift. The real shift begins the moment you stop asking when and start embodying who. This is your time not to wait, but to remember. If you're ready to expand your consciousness and step into your next quantum leap, subscribe now, leave a comment below, and share this message with someone ready to awaken.